Namaste and greetings to Dr. Geza M. Timcak. He is President of Slovak Yoga Association, Chairman of Association for Advancement of Yoga, founding member of Savita Yoga International in Prague. And Indica Yoga is very privileged to have you as a teacher at the Mysuru Yoga Utsava 2024. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very
Doctor,
much.
for speaking to us.
Thank you. I'm also privileged to be a part of the team, so to say now.
Thank you. I mean, I think you're the first person who is standing and doing an interview. That's so interesting. And is that something you prefer or you're comfortable with?
Anything which is non-violent, yes.
That's lovely. So, could we start at the beginning? Your connect with yoga. It goes back to the 1970s, I think. So, could you tell about your first experience with yoga and how did you get into yoga?
Well, you see, it was a little bit earlier. It was in 1958 when I started actually doing on a daily basis yoga, because my father had a very great interest in Oriental philosophy. So we had a lot of discussion of this type. And you saw at that time I was a small guy. And so we always went trekking during the weekends. At that time it was Saturday afternoon and Sunday. And when I couldn't keep up with the pace of the parents, so I always ask a philosophical question, please, can we discuss this and that? And then they slowed down or had a little bit of break and we were discussing. So this was for the philosophy. And my mother got from my grandmother, from my mother's side, the yoga book of Selvaraj Sudian, who was an Indian who came to Budapest to study medicine. And he was also having yoga schools and teaching in Budapest. And he wrote also in Hungarian yoga book. So my mother was practicing yoga when she was pregnant with me. So I got it a little bit earlier than usually. But since 1958, I could, so to say, get myself to a regular practice of yoga according to the school of Selvaraj Sudian, whom I could meet in 1971 in Switzerland because he settled down there. By now, unfortunately, in early 90s, he passed away. But this was the starter. How did I start? And the date which you mentioned is actually the date when in the then Czechoslovakia, it was possible to, so to say, semi-officially and then officially practice yoga. It was called yoga practices. It was not just clean yoga. So then, of course, we because I was not alone with practicing yoga by that time, but we started developing yoga as a subject, yoga as a subject which needed teacher training. So we developed the teaching training program. And fortunately for us, since 1973, we had always the advices and guidance from Dr. Bole, who again, unfortunately, passed away quite recently. And so we had this background in Czechoslovakia, so that by the end of the 1980s, the yoga as such was quite well established, both in Czech Republic and Slovakia. And also the teacher training was really having a very nice structure. And so it was, I think it was nice, even though there was one limitation. You see that at that time, we couldn't really teach meditation because meditation was politically unwanted. So we just taught relaxation, and within the relaxation, we also taught simple meditation techniques because we always had to find some way to get around these problems. So these were the actual beginnings. And in the 90s, it started, original structure broke down and we had to rebuild again. So this is why in 1992 we established the Slovak Yoga Association, which is an umbrella institution, and it cares for the yoga institutions and yoga teaching, the teaching of the within the schools of the member organizations. And now the Slovak Yoga Association is again a member of the European Union of Yoga, which is again an umbrella institution within Europe. And so this is the short history of a long journey.
Yeah. Doctor, your PhD was in which subject? Are you a medical doctor or academic PhD?
Well, you see, when I was at the age that I should enter the university, because my parents were not working class family, but my father was a judge and my mother wasn't also from, so to say, working class. So we were disadvantaged groups. Like in India, you have the disadvantaged groups, but from the other point of view. So here, those who were working on a mental sphere, so they were not manual laborers, they have been some disadvantages. So I was happy to get into the Technical University of Košice, and so I studied a subject which is processing of ores, mining-related subjects, and also my PhD, which I started in 1968 at Imperial College, the London School of Mines, and so the PhD is actually related to stereology, which is again a subject which by now is a little bit out of business, because by now the technology advanced so much that you do not have to do all these probabilistic calculations to reconstruct the 3D form of minerals within the rocks and so on. So it would be a long story, but actually the PhD is not from medicine or life sciences, but it is from the technical sciences, yes.
Oh, okay. And you've also you offer holotropic therapy, doctor. Yesterday in a Yoga Sutra class by Dr. Vinay Chandra, he was talking about how modern psychology says any elevated state is seen as an altered state of consciousness, whereas in the Yoga Sutras, the elevated state or a consciousness is seen as swarupa or the fundamental state. So there's a big contrast between how this is in India in the Yoga Sutras, it's seen as our fundamental nature, but slowly with psychology and advancements in the West, anything that is, calming and meditative and coming back to your original state is seen as an altered state. So, in the light of holotropic therapy, how would you explain this?
Well, you see, in case of holotropic breathwork, which actually was developed into a sort of Western context by Dr. Stan Grof, who is a psychiatrist, now retired, living in Czech Republic. And however, the actual technique was communicated to him by his wife, who was like Swami Muktananda's pupil. So she said to him, well, look, the states which you were achieving in your research, we are achieving during these intensive breathworks, which were done at the Swami Muktananda's centers. So he adapted it to the American taste, so to say. So he introduced music, sort of evocative music, rhythmical music. And basically, when we speak about the result, then I would say that it is a sort of backyard or a former chamber on the entrance of the states about which Patanjali is having his say in the Yoga Sutras, because it means that before you can be let go or you are allowed to free yourself from all the limitations which are brought by the karma, vasanas, whatever, then you have somehow to get acquainted with this. So this also happens in case of just meditation, that sometimes in meditation, very deep, very old images, events come up, and one has to understand it, that why I am at that stage, why I'm here, why I'm having these parents, why I'm having a life in this time, at this place, and so on, because it is a result of our previous activities and the ways of life. Now, once one is understanding it and stops complaining, oh, why do I have this problem, that problem, why can I really meditate, and why can I just eliminate the chitta vrittis, you understand, I'm not able to do it because there is a luggage on my shoulders, which are actually not really allowing me to be as free as I would like to be. So holotropic breathwork works only through intensive breathing, but it's not a hyperventilation. So there is a difference between, for example, this Wim Hof method, which works with the hyperventilation. So in holotropic breathwork, it's not hyperventilation, but intensive breathing. And the result is that at one point, suddenly a door is open, and you start perceiving what is relevant for you at the given time, at a given place, because again, it's not that everyone is having a structured, uniform set of experiences, but you may have very, very deep experiences, but still you are there as the experiencer. So it doesn't solve the ultimate question that, okay, if I would like to step aside from the ahamkara, which creates my personality and my personalized existence, then of course, so it's not the final stage, but usually people have very transforming experiences. So sometimes people say, okay, my life before the holotropic session and after, especially when it is a holotropic breathwork in warm water, because you know the warm water emulates the state in the womb. So you feel more relaxed and you can let go all these minor or bigger obstacles more easily.
So this was first developed in Czechoslovakia by
Stan Grove, yes, started his career in Czechoslovakia, but then he went for a scholarship to the United States. And in United States, he married his second wife, and she was the student of Swami Bhuktananda. And so this is how these two lines of practice met. And then Stan Grove developed the actual technique, which is called the holotropic breathwork. And you know, look behind everything a lady. So it, you know, in the American context, the bigger is the number of people doing holotropic breathwork, the more American it is. Now, suddenly, Stan Grove had a sciatic problem, so he couldn't really walk, he could only sit, and he was unfortunate because then how could he contact with the people who do the breathwork, and so he cannot help them and assist them in any way. And again, his wife came, look, it's so easy. You have to put the authority in such a way to the breathing people that you divide the group to two. And one was just the sitter who will care for the one who is breathing, and the other will breathe. And then you can just advise as necessary. So in this way, in fact, his wife contributed greatly to the actual shape of the holotropic breathwork, even though it is developing always, because, you know, every technique nowadays is developed more and more deeply and deeply. So this is how it was. So it was. Yes.
Sorry. In the light of this year's theme of Ananda,
Yes.
what would you be talking and focusing about? Would it be about this practice or about any specific experiences and your journey with yoga?
You see, I was very happy when I heard that there will be a conference devoted to this very, very important subject because, you know, Ananda has many levels. So the Kashmiri Shaiva system has 6 types of Ananda. The Buddhist has even more types of Ananda and Samadhi. And however, one thing is theory, the other is practice. Now, the basic level of Ananda is Santosha. Because, you know, if you don't have this basic level of Ananda, then the only thing is that depression will come. Because you don't see the result, the reason why you live. You don't see your place in life. You're unhappy, and you know, depression is something. I have a friend whom I know for many years, and for some family reasons, he got a depression. Now a fully grown person who before could walk 20, 30 kilometers without a problem. Suddenly, he could walk only a few hundred steps and said, no, I cannot do, I'm impossible. It's impossible for me to walk. No, I cannot do it. So basically his whole personality changed, his energy level went down. So unless one is able to maintain Santosha, which is a basic level of Ananda in our everyday life, depression comes, and this is really, really very bad. The second thing is that Santosha is relatively easy to get if you have a correct frame of mind. And now, Ananda. Well, we know very well that on the absolute level, this Satchit Ananda is something which is already here. We don't have to go anywhere, but there are some locks which prevent us really realizing that we are immersed in Ananda. So then comes the meditation. But again, we come to a very interesting point, the koshas. So we have the ahamkar, we have the karmic, the karmashaya, personal, family, nation, and so on. Then we have the vasanas, which come from the karmas. And then the ahamkar is actually getting the information from the outside and from the inside databases through the koshas. Now, many modern views say that, okay, Anandamaya kosha is the one which makes access to Ananda possible, which is true, but only in the dreamless sleep, so very slow delta dominant type of sleep, but we are not conscious of it. So the whole operational system of our mind is switched off. And again, this is why if we are in a sleep deprivation state, then our whole mental frame is breaking down, and so we are very, very far from Ananda. So unconsciously, every night when we go to sleep and have a sleepless, dreamless sleep, then Ananda is there, but we have only an indirect reference. Second, some of the schools say that, Anandamaya kosha is the darkness of ignorance. Well, from my point of view, it's true, because should we be in a self-realized state, then Ananda would be something which we would live day and night. Other schools say, or other people say, no, it is the darkness of desire. And why? Because our small little anandas which we get, if we get a nice lunch, or we get something which is pleasant or which makes us joyful, we have a small dose of anandic type of feeling. It's a very, very diluted, but usually this is how we get it, because the kanchukas, the limitations. So instead of being in a state of constant total wisdom, total power over things in which we have to live, devoid of time, of space, and so on. So we are limited. And so because we are limited, we always want to get back to the Anandic state, but we are unable because the moment I take a morsel of the food which I like, then unfortunately it's gone. I have to take another morsel. I take it in, it's gone. So this is something which is very critical from the point of view that we always look in the wrong direction, so to say, so that we try to satisfy, get the Ananda through, well, I would say, improper, in inverted comma, by improper means. That means we can only get very short, really very short blinks of pleasant feeling. This is far for Ananda. I mean, where are we from the Ananda? So then the meditation as such, we know that all the 5 koshas are, so to say, jada. They are not alive. The consciousness makes them alive. And therefore, in order to arrive to a state which includes Ananda, so merging into being, let's call it like that, it means that all the koshas are switched off, the ahamkara is switched off in a way that various schools name it in a different way, but that we do not give any energy, any attention to any of the ongoing or latent processes of the mind. And then suddenly comes this state, which is very desirable, but very, very demanding in the sense that all our education is against this. All our education, know more, learn more. But, there is a saying that Jnanam bandha. So if the more you learn, the bigger obstacles you have to cover, because you have to forget what you have learned. If you are still within this frame, Ananda is very far. I'm in the real Ananda. So this is actually the subject area which I would like to share with those who are present. It is a very important subject for me also because the function of the koshas, very often, for example, in Sarva Upanishad, they are very nicely defined, but in a way that if you read it, you don't really know, okay, how should I actually get hold of this structure? How to really discover what does it mean? Because usually it's a combined image. So, the Vijnanama Kosha is integrating all the information and puts it into a model which is unified for every living being so that we recognize the same things. And how to stop it? Well, this is the task. So this is why I was so happy that the subject of the conference is Ananda. And, I think even though being is, so to say, more important, but we cannot separate the two, is more important than actually Ananda, because that's already something which results from the being and consciousness. But the task of anyone who is really trying to reach the aim of yoga and the human aim, the ultimate human aim, then he or she has to come to know how the koshas work, therefore how the mind works as such. And this is what actually I would like to share, whatever I know about it, on this conference.
Yeah. From this, Tim, there's the emphasis largely both now in India as well as in the West has been on the practice. And even, we say that finally yoga is about sadhana and practice more than philosophy or as a theoretical subject to be understood. But do you think that it's equally important for us to know what is the theory behind all of this that you have spoken about in order to understand what are we trying to achieve through the actual physical practice?
Definitely, yes. If you get a new car and you have no idea how how to operate it. Well, this is the most unfortunate thing for you and for the environment into which you are getting yourself. So, of course, this what I have been speaking about is actually the background of the practice. So unless we know the structure of, for example, the mind, unless we can observe what's happening there, unless we can discriminate, oh, now I get an idea, is it my idea or is it something which comes from some vasana? Do I really want it, or perhaps it's better if I disengage from this impulse?
Yeah.
So that's it. And so it is very much practice related. Without practice, we cannot proceed. And of course, nowadays, asanas govern the yoga world, so to say, even though the rest is catching up because people realize that, okay, we can, I mean, there are some organizations that promote yoga to the Olympics. Let us do the competitions. But I had some very long discussions with quite a number of people some decades ago. So I was told, look at the Bhagavad Gita, where it happened, where the war was about to come. So war may be as a sort of sport. As a sport? Oh, yes, because there are competition. Two armies compete. So yoga and competition, Bhagavad Gita is telling you that yoga is competition. So that was actually an Indian Swami who was discussing with me on this subject. Yes, it can be also had in that way, even though we know when we are near to a war like we are here in my place, that yes, but in case of sport, you see, the outcome is not deadly usually. So you can either be a winner or a loser or in between something, but you are not endangered on your life, and the life is the means how to proceed, not only within the usual activities, but also in yoga. So my opinion would be that definitely we need a body. The body should be kept in a good shape, because otherwise our santosha will be gone. We will not be able to perform as we should. We would give a lot of work to the physicians who should care after our health, not our diseases. That would be the ideal. So yes, and for that, yoga is also a very, very important tool, so to say. Yoga, now I meant asanas, pranayama, mudras, bandhas, and so on. The kriyas, the shatkarmas, which are in Europe, they are not really very popular because there are very few people who teach it. But again, the interest is growing because detox, yes, another buzzword, detox. But the yogis have detoxes for millennia. So why don't you use this? No, you have to buy this, you have to buy that, this preparation, that preparation. Okay, if you want to spend money on this, why not? But in case of yoga, this is also something very important, especially because you have there practices which relate to the meditation, the Tratak, you have the Uddiyana Bandha Nauli, and so on and so on. So actually, the Shatkarmas are preparing one for the next steps. And, you may be flexible as you wish, but still it doesn't mean that you are healthy and that your mind is healthy. So yes, indeed, you should not be stiff, but yoga is a complete system. So we have to take care of every aspect of it.
Thank you so much, Tim, and for this lovely conversation and the insights. We're looking forward to seeing you in Mysore.
Thank you very much.
With
I
a lot
also
of Ananda.
look forward very much to see you all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste.